Something as massive as a tax package is definitely going to have some of the senators having second thoughts. What's it do for their political future? What are the liabilities? So that's why Melissa and I asked former San Francisco Mayor and House Speaker Willie Brown his thoughts on the budget plan and how you get it passed.
Well, you start with trying to make sure they believe you have their best interests at heart. And when you capture that amount of attention, you can then begin to have them understand the advice.
So in other words, if you're a Donald Trump or a Nancy Pelosi, the first thing you have to do is address your senators or congressmen that this is what's good for you. This is how you're going to win.
You have to develop a relationship before you get to that point. You really do have to develop a personal relationship with the individual before they will take your advice. Your advice, doesn't come as a result of an internet connection.
But yeah, I hate to be cynical, but yeah, you really do, though, at the end of the day, have to show them that their personal interests and their reelection prospects are aligned with the goals that you're putting forth.
Which brings the question, what percentage of what we see, offend him, what percentage of what we see done in Washington or Sacramento is done out of self-interest of these guys and gals, and how much is done in the public interest?
I would hope, Phil, that at some point, the definition of the final result and the final proposal would be reflective of the public's interest. After all, that's what government should really be about. But that's not always the way it is with many of the politicians. The leadership has to make sure that they direct it in that way. And that's why Nancy is so effective. She ultimately gets all of the membership to understand that you've got to do it in such a way you can defend it, and the only way you can defend it, it has to be in the public interest, and that translates into the best thing for you.
It's interesting, this package is aimed at passing even the tax reform without Democratic input, right?
That's right. They would only need those 50 votes, actually just 50, because then the vice president is number 51, so they've got a little wiggle room.
So the budget has sort of put a blueprint for how they can get the tax thing.
Exactly. Senator Dianne Feinstein is facing a challenge from within her own party in next year's election. Kevin De Leon is the president pro tem of the California Senate. He says he's running. The Los Angeles Democrat says he will highlight his record on climate change and immigration, among other issues. Ro Khanna, who you just saw there, has encouraged Mr. De Leon to run and has already endorsed him. Feinstein has held her seat since 1993. She's the top Democrat on the Senate Judiciary Committee.
What a lineup. That's why Melissa and I asked former San Francisco Mayor Willie Brown what he thought about the upcoming competition.
Almost impossible. As a matter of fact, if I thought it could be done, I would be advising her on what she should do in view thereof. But believe me, Phil, it will be almost impossible. But I guess in the world of politics, everything is possible if you got enough money. Ask Meg Whitman.
Now, you were a leader in Sacramento. How well known were you? I think that there's a name recognition issue with Kevin De Leon. He's the president pro tem. We know who he is, but do normal Californians know who the leadership is?
Not at all. As a matter of fact, what I did in a bar just recently, there was 8 or 10, 12 people in the bar, and I'm arguing with a guy about Dianne the same way I'm talking here. And I finally said, okay, what am I going to do? You go around and you ask each one of these people, who is Dianne Feinstein's opponent? And when you come back, if you got at least 5 of the people in this room, I'm buying a whole house of drink in your name. He came back and said to me, I think I'd better buy you dinner. I said, why? He said, there wasn't one person that knew who this guy was. So all you got to go is you can't beat somebody with nobody.
Oh. And he's going to need a lot of money to get that name recognition, and it's not clear that there's money for this candidate.
But, Melissa, you can't buy name recognition. Meg Whitman spent $120 million, $150 million, I don't know, a huge
running
sum.
for governor against Jerry Brown.
And she never did get anybody to know her name. Well, she was still Ben Franklin's sister.
I think people knew who she was. They just weren't enthralled with who she was.
But could Kevin De Leon's entrance lead to other people, possibly with bigger money, fortunes of their own, like a former hedge fund runner like Tom Steyer, who's been very active and spent $70 million nationally in politics? Could he be the candidate?
He could.
Well, let me tell you, what Dianne has to worry about is all of the people coming together and spending their money on all negative ads and all zeroing in on her. Somebody may benefit.
And it's going to be interesting because Kevin De Leon is not, let's say, known outside of political circles, but he does represent this. Polling has shown an ideal change, get some new blood in there. There is a growing frustration among Democrats that the top has been sort of solidified: Jerry Brown, Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein.
Well, and I think some people were hoping or maybe expecting positions in a Hillary Clinton administration, and when that didn't materialize, suddenly we have to figure out what to do.
You think they're actually just looking for a job to keep going?
Oh, I would never imply that they're uninterested in the private sector, but they're definitely uninterested in the private sector.